What's going on, everybody? This video is not really scripted at all or with bullet points. It's kind of just going to be a stream of consciousness about something that I believe to be one of the biggest issues with record collecting in general. And I've had this issue for years. I've mentioned it before, probably in live streams and a video here or there, but I've never done a dedicated video to it. And my hope with this video is that someone watches this and they go, oh, great, I know the answer. Here's the solution to your problem. Boom. And it's actually a solution and not a proposed solution that isn't accurate based on everything I'm about to share. Let me get into it. The biggest problem that record collectors face, especially when your collection gets big and somewhat valuable according to Discogs, when you look at your min, median, max, and your median's very hefty, and you're like, wow, my collection's actually worth quite a bit of money, which is exciting to feel. And then the flip side of that coin is it's terrifying to feel when you realize that there is absolutely no way to properly insure your record collection. Now, I know your first reaction might be either, that can't be true, or, nah, my collection's insured, I'm fine. I'm gonna post some questions in this video that might make you question that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, this would be a good time. I have like 700 videos in the past, more coming out soon, so hit the bell and you won't miss out on anything I put out. I've tried to insure my personal collection for many years. I probably am sitting at somewhere around 4,000 records in my personal collection as an outside of the record store. The records in the store are insured, thankfully. It's a little different when it's business insurance. However, I will say that they're not necessarily insured exactly to their value for the exact same reason that the records in my collection aren't. You may have a homeowner's policy, renter's policy, or something that has a record collection involved with coverage if, let's say, there's something catastrophic, knock on wood, that there's a fire or a tornado or a giant flood or something, you know, naturally devastating that happens to your collection, or something more natural like a collection gets stolen or something like that. There's a lot of possibilities where a record collection could be in jeopardy, and you want to feel peace of mind that you will be able to somehow get reimbursed if that happens, and that's not going to be with the records. I mean, I have records in my collection that are irreplaceable. I have ones that are one of a kind. I have ones that you'll never see again just because they're that limited, that rare, that specific. And I know I'm not going to get those records back should something happen. But ideally, I would like to be protected where if I lost everything in a house fire, I would at least be paid out in a way that I could start rebuilding and not feel absolutely devastated that everything I've invested time-wise, money-wise, whatever it may be, into this collection is totally lost. And unfortunately, after doing so much research over the years on my own, via Reddit posts, via talking to other collectors, I have not found one singular answer to the question of why can't we properly insure our records for the value that they're worth? And that answer is kind of complicated, and it's for a few reasons. The first being that, as far as I know, most places want you to get valuables, collectibles, things that have a higher value to them than just like insuring your household goods or clothes or whatever it may be. They want it to be appraised. There's no way to appraise a record collection for a few reasons. Can you imagine taking thousands of records out somewhere, or even bringing someone to your home to go through and appraise? You know what they would do? They would end up just using Discogs, and they would go through and they would assign a value to everything, and you would be like, okay, this is what everything's worth. And that's accurate for that day, that month, that year, maybe, probably not. As a record store owner, I watch the prices fluctuate constantly in the aftermarket for records, especially newer records that can really jump up hundreds of dollars in the span of a few weeks after a certain artist blows up or a certain, record goes out of print that's high in demand. The records that come out in the past 20 years are so volatile that whatever you appraise it at now is not going to be the value in 6 months. It might go down, it might go up, but it's not accurate. This brings it to the bigger issue, right? So ultimately, if you're trying to get a value for the collection that you lost, the only way to do it is to go by the universal standard of what every record store uses to value records. The Goldmine book is no longer a thing. People use Discogs, and also an adjunct of that would be eBay through sites like PopPsych, where you'll be able to see aggregate sales of whatever record it is and what it's gone for in the past. So Discogs, in its ever-fluctuating form, is the only way to actually track what your records are worth. And let's say you have all your records meticulously cataloged, because all of us do, right? We totally don't have anything that's left out of our Discogs or anything, or piles of hundreds of records on the floor that have to be, cataloged at some point. even if that's the case, what I have gathered from talking to many agencies is that no one can for sure guarantee or promise that they will use Discogs as the actual metric of perceiving the value in the case of a total loss. That's a problem, because that's the only way to be able to catalog it. Like, if you were to have a full list of all of your records, there's no way to prove what the value was at the loss. There's no way to even know if, like, the record you had in your shelf that you cataloged is the right condition. Like, if you say, oh, it was near mint, but it was actually beat up, how are they going to pay you out for the version that's more expensive? There's so many variables when it comes to collecting records that it's an almost impossibility. Everybody on both sides is kind of screwed. Well, the insurance companies are fine because they're going to make out like a Band-Aid because they're not going to have to pay out the actual value of things. But that still brings me to the ultimate question of, what do we do about this? There are companies that exist, and I've reached out to them, and they either say they won't take Discogs, like that's not good enough, they need appraised, or they say they probably will, but they'll have to assess in the moment. That is not exactly a level of confidence that I am willing to subscribe to. I don't think that maybe we'll use the only viable source of pricing that exists to be able to give you a value for your collection is enough of a guarantee for me to want to trust any company to insure my records. So I think we're at a stalemate as of now. And again, like I said, my hope is that somebody watches this video and says, no, here's what you do. Here's the way to do it. Because I've looked it up for so long and I've never found anything conclusive. And I hope also on the flip side that you don't watch this video and become terrified that whatever policy you have is not going to cover. Although it is good to know. It's important to know these things so you aren't blindsided in the event of a tragedy like that. And you are prepared to make sure that whatever coverage you have actually covers what you have. So collecting records is a really fun hobby. It's been my main hobby for a long time. It is now also my job. And I love it. But it's also stressful, man. It's stressful when you think about those kind of scenarios. And, thankfully I've been lucky enough to not have any major issues thus far in terms of, loss of my records. But anything can happen at any time to anybody. That's kind of the chaotic and random nature of life. And I would love a scenario where my investment, which is a significant financial investment that is worth significantly more than what I've invested into it because of, the way the market works, intelligent buying patterns, etc. I want to know that if something happens, I wouldn't be completely up the creek without a paddle. And at this point, I don't have confidence in that. This video is a PSA to A, check your policy and make sure that the things I mentioned in this video aren't relevant to it, because obviously that would be a problem. And B, maybe we can get some brainstorming going in the comments, whether it's fear of the same issue and camaraderie of all of us being in this together, or possibly solutions that we could discuss, and maybe there's something that no one's thought of, or maybe there's something that we can do that's kind of like an alternative solution to give collectors that once they get deep in the hobby have so many records around that maybe give us some peace of mind. I hope this video was enlightening in some way, and I genuinely feel like it's something that isn't discussed enough and should be discussed more, because we invest so much in these collections. They're so important to us. They're an extension of us, and it's a huge part of a lot of our lives. And whether you have 100 records or 50,000 records, you want to protect them, and you want to make sure you get the value that they're worth. And right now, as far as I see it, there's not really a good solution to do that. So drop a comment below with your thoughts on this, and I hope that together we can come up with some kind of solution. Thank you so much for watching this video. More coming soon. Take it easy.